there is a world out there that is willing, ready, and able for a woman to be the head. We've been running things all along. It's just an acknowledgement of that.
That was Evelyn Magley, Chief Executive Officer of the Basketball League, talking about her influential role as the only woman and only Black woman in the world to own a professional men's sports organization and all the great work they're doing in their communities. And this is IBJ's The Freedom Forum with Angela B. Freeman. So, Miss Evelyn, it is so nice to welcome you to the Freedom Forum, and thank you for being here. As you know, 2024, which is coming to an end, is hard to believe, but it's been a phenomenal year for Indianapolis's huge sports, culture, and entertainment events, and I've been speaking with executives responsible for Indiana's major sports organizations all year. In the spirit of diversity, what this show is all about, I'm excited to have this conversation with you today. However, before we get started, will you please tell our listeners a bit about you, your educational and professional background, and any other factors that have led to you becoming the Chief Executive Officer of the Basketball League?
First, I'd like to say thank you very much, Miss Angela Freeman, for allowing me this opportunity to be able to share the journey of the Basketball League. This means a lot to me. It means a lot to our organization and also in the communities that we serve in. So first, I'd like to say thank you for that. A little bit about myself. Let's go back. I graduated from the University of Kansas with 2 degrees, one in music education and one in music therapy. One, you're teaching music as a skill. The other, you're using music to teach other skills. And then from there, after graduation, I actually met my husband, my soon-to-be husband, so to speak, and we started our family. What I would like to say is the foundation of the Basketball League really has been my life. And it's not something that really came from just one experience, but I can see the hand of God in my life and how everything that I've experienced has worked towards this moment in my life. And so to spend a lot of time explaining what I've been through to get here would literally take a lifetime. But the vision of the Basketball League literally started from a place of pain. It started with me on my bathroom floor, crying out to God. What did He have for my life? We were at a very hard place in our lives where there was a lot of crisis going on. We had both been in Canada, my husband and myself. I was working with community outreach there for the NBL Basketball League of Canada. My husband was a commissioner there, and I came back to the States to work with and be with my family because of some things that were going on in crisis and in particular, one of my children's lives. My husband had unexpectedly lost a brother who died. And so he was trying to deal with some crisis. And then he decided to come back from Canada to the States because he wanted to be around family. And from there, he started to build another league with an investor of sorts that didn't work out because of the experience that he was going through in the family and him telling me that that was not going to be able to work due to a variety of circumstances. I dismissed myself from our conversation. Seeing my husband was totally broken, I went to the restroom to cry. And I didn't want to cry in front of him because I didn't want to cause any more stress from all the losses that we were having. So I'm in the floor, literally on the bathroom floor, crying out to God. And He spoke into my life and showed me, number one, why are you crying? And my thoughts were, why am I crying? I say, I believe. So if I believe, then why am I in here on the floor crying? And then He spoke into my life and said, do you trust me? I said, yeah, I do trust you. Now I'm feeling guilty because if I say I trust God, then why am I crying? And then he said, start your own league. And I jumped up and I was like, are you kidding me? And I'm telling you, Angela, it was like a download, the little wheel that spins when something's downloading, where this information was coming at me like, you can start your own basketball league that will be based on the love of the game, but really about the lives of the young men and how all these different things were just coming into my head. And I jumped up, I ran into the bedroom where my husband was asleep. I'm like, David, God spoke to me. He spoke to me. He sits up, he's got, what a CPAP thing. What's going on? I'm like, David, God spoke to me. He spoke to me. He told me to start my own league. He said, where? I'm like, David. And it's like, he pulls the thing off. He's like, can we talk about this in the morning? I'm like, no, you don't understand. God just showed me to start my own league. And so he says, okay, well, what? I said, well, it's like a download. Let's talk about this. So we sat down that night and we were up until like 5 a.m. writing down what this league would be about. And the basis of that is that it is a league that uses the game of basketball to show love to community. And to go back, I know that's a lot, but to go back, it shows in every aspect of my life that through the pain that we were going through, something was birthed that now is impacting lives across the United States and greater North America. So that's how it got started. It wasn't like I'm sitting there like, I'm going to be the CEO of this league and I'm going to, it wasn't like something that I dreamt to do my whole life. I'm a retired music teacher, degree in music ed and music therapy and primary and secondary. I love my students. I love teaching. And this basketball league allows us to continue to do those things and use the game of basketball to do it.
That is a very powerful and moving story and a start to this conversation. So thank you for sharing that because that's very intimate and I appreciate you sharing. And I think there will be a lot of people who are blessed by that testimony because as a mom myself and as a family person, I think there's probably plenty of people out there whose next best thing was initiated through a time of crisis and a time of not knowing and a time of wondering and praying and trying to figure out what the next thing is. So thank you for that. I want to talk about, you mentioned that you started your career as a music teacher and a music therapist. And I appreciate that both of those are a mechanism or were a mechanism to exercise your passions for positively impacting the lives of children. And I appreciate that you also founded a children's ministry at some point in the inner city to have some additional impact. So again, as a mother myself, I appreciate the challenges of being a professional woman, trying to raise a family, have positive impact on your children and other children. And so I want to know how your love of children, including your own children, drove your career decisions in a way that has allowed you to be involved and invested in their lives while not losing sight of your own personal passions and ambitions and aspirations to also affect positive change for other children's lives.
I will say the children's ministry that I started was Children with Purpose. And it's because I really firmly believe, Angela, that we are not randomly here, that there is a calling. No matter what it is in your life, there's a calling and a place for you to be. I always tell my students and even the young men in the league that from the beginning of time until the end of time, from the beginning of them taking their first breath until they take their last, there will only be one you. I don't care if you have a twin, it's a different person. And so because there's only one you, you must understand that there's a reason why you are the way you are, and that you're not here by accident, that there's a purpose for your life. and that everything that you go through is to help you in your journey to fulfill what you're here on this earth for. And even through the pain, that's part of it. That's part of the journey. Some people say, well, I believe in God, and it just seems like it's not fair that this happened and this or that happened. But through everything that you go through, there is a purpose. And so understanding that and then reaching down inside of those individuals and letting them see that you're not an accident. No matter what you've been told, no matter what someone has said to you, oh, you're stupid, or you're fat, or you're this, or you're too light, you're too dark. All of these different things that have been said to you, that the echo in the back of your head, literally, you can take it one of two ways. You can let it beat you up, or you can take that thing and turn it around and use it to help you become more mature so that you understand not to say and do those things to others. And it's how you see your life and how you can take those things and use them not only to better yourself, but use it to help someone else that may be hurting in the same area that you are.
And I think it takes time. I mean, we're on the other side of a bit of gray hair and some wisdom that gives you the time to appreciate. Oh, I do. Oh, I do. I cover it up well, but I do, Miss Evelyn. But it takes time to appreciate your purpose. But I had the benefit of a mother who's spoken to my life just like you have for our listeners today, that made clear to me there was a purpose for my life. And I don't think all children get that benefit of knowing you are here for a reason. You've got to figure out what that is, but it's not by mistake or happenstance that you're here. And I think that is an awesome way to validate children, particularly diverse children who may not always get that validation. That's why our teachers and our professors and our Bible school teachers and all the people who speak into our lives as children really are so important, because they continue to validate and affirm our reason to be here, that we're valuable and that we're important. So I want to ask you, because you've gone from being this teacher, and I've spoken to many leaders this year who have transferred their skills that they've gained in so many other professions, whether it was teaching or politics or retail, HR, law, or so many others, and transfer those skills to sports leadership, similar to what you've done. And I see that same thing in your career path. So I'd like to know, when and why did you make the transition from music education to basketball, to the basketball organization? I think you've already kind of described that in your initial statements about how the basketball league came to be. But I also want to know, how did the opportunity to get involved with the Brampton A's at the National Basketball League of Canada, which you mentioned briefly, first present itself? And what skills did you gain there that you've been able to transfer to your leadership at the Basketball League now?
It was an opportunity that I took on as the community outreach, the director of community outreach with the Brampton A's. And what that allowed me to do was to represent that basketball team, and on behalf of the league, go out to the community, work with the nonprofit organizations, and see exactly who needed and wanted to be able to come to a basketball game. Now, my experience in Canada was amazing, because the nonprofit organizations would meet, I'm telling you, at a round table. We have between 50 to 60 organizations at a round table sharing their resources. So one group is, we have a patient that has HIV that we need a bed or a place for them to stay because our shelter here is full. Another place would say, well, we have room in our shelter. Another place would say, we have the transportation to get them there, to transport them there. We had all of these organizations taking the funds that they had and sharing their funds. And I sat there as an American. It was overwhelming, because it wasn't like, oh, well, we got this grant and it's our money and we got to keep this because we got this $5 and this 1,000 that's going to go over here. And we don't want that organization to get our money because it was everybody working together. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. You had nonprofit organizations that were coming together, and instead of them each individually having their own place to be able to have a place for their organization, they would come together and incorporate and come together and use one building and have 10 or 12 organizations in one building, and they're sharing the cost on that and the utilities and everything so that the overhead, they didn't have to spend as much money. They were coming together. And I thought, wow, this is beautiful. And that concept is really a part of what we do with the basketball league. It is our teams utilizing the platform that we have as a professional basketball team to use it as a community asset. So it's not that just, oh, we need a sponsor. It's more or less, how can we serve you? How can we use this professional basketball platform to serve the community? So with that experience helped me to be able to show and have an organization that now utilizes all of its resources for the communities they're involved in, i.e., opportunities, more opportunities. And it's not just about the players. It's about everyone that's involved. We have players, of course, that are playing now in the G League, that are playing. We've got 4 players that are playing in the NBA that started in TBL. But we also have dancers that dance at our games that are now dancers. We've got, I think, 3 dancers that are dancing now with the Indiana Pacers, 2 that started with the Kokomo Bobcats, and 1 that started with the Lebanon Leprechaun dancers. We have individuals that love stats, taking stats. We train them on Genius Sports, #1 stats program in the world. They are now doing stats for NFL games. They're now working with the SEC. So it's about taking that experience of me seeing everyone working together there and saying, let's use this platform that we have to now bring communities together and bring them together to be able to help one another using the platform.
You've already answered my next question a bit in that you described the Kokomo, what were they? The
Bobcats.
The Kokomo Bobcats and the Lebanon Leprechauns.
Yes.
Those are 2 Indiana teams?
Yes, we have one more, Medora Timberjacks.
Okay.
Out in Medora.
Okay, so we do have Indiana teams in the basketball league. So I'd like you to tell us a bit more about the basketball league, how it differs from the NBA, which of course everyone's familiar with, and how can people get involved or come support or be more involved in supporting the basketball league if you have a team that is in your city or potentially visiting your city?
We are community-based. We're community assets, our teams are. And so you have local investors, you have sponsorships that are typically local and are offering the community an opportunity to be involved. Our players are different in that they're not just taking a shoe, throwing it out, running off the court, somebody grabbing a shoe, like, oh, I got a shoe. Our players are involved in the community. They're working with youth basketball clinics. They're working with Habitat for Humanity. They're working at the geriatric center. We've got some of the players go in Lebanon, and there's a geriatric center there, and they go in and they sing songs with them. They read. They have reading times where they read at schools, and they utilize their lives other than just playing on a basketball court. We're different because typically the players are from those communities that they're playing in. Now, we have some communities that have players that are from outside, but that's where the diversity and the inclusion comes in, because we have individuals that are going into communities that may not have a high population of African Americans that are living there. And our players, just because they're playing doesn't mean I'm only playing because I have nothing else to do. They have master degrees. They're educated. They have experiences off of the court that they're now bringing into those communities. And Medora also was able to have their players were some of their substitute teachers because they have degrees, some in teaching. And now you've got an area that has a harder to get substitute teachers to come way out into Medora. You've got individuals that are coming into the community, and now they're teaching and they're showing a broader spectrum of the world, showing people are educated, and it's not just a basketball player. And that's one of the things that we really emphasize is educating communities and allowing the young men to see that they're also more than just a basketball player, that they're able to contribute to the communities that they go into, not just on the court, but off of the court.
So, Miss Evelyn, I appreciate that you are a history maker, in that it's my understanding, and I want you to correct this for me, because I saw notes that said you're the first woman to ever own a professional men's sports league. And if that's true, then certainly I appreciate that you're also the first African American or Black woman to ever own a professional men's sporting league of any kind. I read, and I got the of any kind. In other words, not just basketball, but any kind of men's sports league. And I think that is exceptional and should be highlighted here. But as a woman in such a unique leadership position, what has been your experience in ascending to leadership of a male-dominated sport? What have you found to be particular strengths that you bring to your league? And are there any experiences that you're willing to share that exemplify some of the unique challenges or biases or microaggressions or other barriers that women often experience along that career path to leadership in Indiana or across the country, whether in sports or private practice, government, teaching, whatever?
What I have experienced is probably what I've experienced my whole life. Sometimes a sense of not fitting in. But the world that we live in, as James Brown says, it's a man's world. So the experiences that I'm having being in a male-dominated industry with men's pro sports is not unlike most things that I've experienced in my life. I think what I learned my first year was I listened. I listened a lot. Instead of coming in and having all of the answers, I watched the culture. I saw how people interacted with one another. And then I've learned through that to listen twice, speak once, and mean what I say. And what I have found is that there is a world out there that is willing, ready, and able for a woman to be the head. We've been running things all along. It's just an acknowledgement of that. And the acknowledgement sometimes doesn't come through. I've had experiences where I've actually walked into a venue, been introduced as a CEO, my husband as the president, to a man that has walked across the court and introduced my husband as the CEO and me as his lovely wife.
Wow. That sounds about right.
And you sit there and you're like, tell me that this didn't just happen. So how do you correct that without coming across like, oh, you're being arrogant? You're correcting a man that has just introduced you? How do you handle that? And that's one of the things that I say then when I shake the hands. Hi, my name is Evelyn. I'm CEO. Thank you. But it's not even as much as anyone needing to know that you're the CEO. It's the fact that there's no acknowledgement of it, even though you've just verbally said it. So it goes to show you that in a world that is a man's world, pretty much, even when you're breaking paradigms and you're breaking through that glass ceiling, that even when you've broken through, they still don't see you. So my focus has to be deeper than just being acknowledged as the CEO. I have to do the work and then let everybody else catch up, because it's really, the vision is not about me. If I can utilize the fact that I'm a woman, I'm a CEO, I'm African American, in order to further our reach to communities, to be able to impact lives and show other young ladies and young girls that this is possible, I'm all for it. But the vision is bigger than just me. The vision is for the community. And a part of that is educating the community on our young men, the dancers, the gifts and the talents that are within the community. We want to utilize this to be certain that people that are involved are able to be seen. Because how many times is a dancer going to be able to make the Indiana Pacers? That means that there are no more good dancers? I don't think so. I think it's opportunities. So it's about utilizing this league to reach out and allow the unseen to be seen. Because I know that even when they are seen, sometimes they're not. And I get it. So I would say, in answering that question, I believe that it's going to allow us to open more doors of opportunities for people on a local level. You know, the NBA, I love it. I mean, it's where our players want to go. Their big dream is to play in the NBA, but everybody may not make it there. But we're giving an opportunity to be the feeder. We have referees that are now referees in the NBA. They have hopes and dreams. Where and who is going to see them? What platform are they going to be able to utilize locally to be able to, number one, learn the game from the NBA? Okay, you can be a referee at a college or a high school, but the rules are different. How and where are you going to fine-tune your skills to be able to go out and be seen to be a referee in the G League or the NBA? We're offering that opportunity. So as far as it goes for me being a woman in a man's world, I've been a woman in a man's world my whole life. I just got to get tougher.
That's powerful. I have 2 questions for you based on that comment. Number 1, who are the players that are your typical basketball league players if they're not the D1 athletes that have aspirations to go to the NBA? Number 1. I'll let you answer that because the next one is on a completely different subject.
So our players are very diversified. We have players that have played in Division I, NAIA, junior college. We have players that have played in the G League and have also played in the NBA. We have players that have not played at any institution of higher education. And so our players are and come from a diversified background. We have players that have played overseas, that have played in Brazil and China. And you'll know that if you're a player, you can't take a season off. You have to have stats and you have to have footage of you playing in order to stay relevant, in order to be recruited to get to that next level. So we open the door for all players to be able to come to a combine or a tryout, to have an opportunity to be seen so that now they can play in the basketball league. And our games are broadcast in 145 countries. So now they're able to basically market themselves. TBL is a showcase league. They're able to be seen worldwide, and it gives those players that have had opportunities to be seen and those players that have not had opportunities to be seen to play at a high level and to be recruited and be able to go up and play overseas, G League, NBA, etc.
So I'm going to tell you that was a totally selfish question because I have a young D3 athlete myself, basketball player who absolutely loves the game. And I appreciate that in 2-3 years when we know his college opportunity will be over, that he may not have given up the love yet. So this is a viable option for someone like him or other of his teammates and classmates who absolutely love the game and aren't quite ready to give it up. So that's great information. The next question I have for you is transitioning a bit to talk about transparency and authenticity. And you were very vulnerable earlier in talking about being a woman in a man's league. But I also know that you are in an interracial marriage. And I want to ask about that in the respect of how that has had any bearing on your ascension to leadership, leading your life. And I ask specifically because I've not had many people, if any, that I'm aware of in such a relationship. I know that while it may seem old as all get out, it's still something that is relevant, particularly when you're talking about the days of George Floyd and all the social and racial injustice that we're still fighting and still dealing with, and just in women being able to ascend to different levels of leadership. So I just want to ask, with respect to your transparency and authenticity in being a leader of a basketball organization, or frankly, any organization, how do you allow yourself or position yourself to be transparent and authentic in who you are and who you've become and how the decisions of your life have made you the woman you are to be able to lead such an organization, particularly a male-dominated sports organization?
Well, I would say that starts with my parents. I was raised in a family that loves people. My background in my family, although my skin doesn't show, is very diversified. My great-grandmother was white. She married a man that was mulatto and said that she was mulatto in order to cross that color line in order to be able to marry him. My background is very diversified, and so is my family. And because of that diversification within my own family, I was raised to see people as people and to know who I am and whose I am. And so I married my soulmate. It just so happened he came in a different package than myself. And a lot of the transitions of my own life opened the door for me to be able to see him as a person from my upbringing and my parents. And I'm glad that I was raised in that background. My father, who was an African American man, always taught me to just see people as people. And that's the way he raised me. In fact, even in my own household, I could never come home and say, I didn't get that because I'm Black. He didn't allow it. I said, but Daddy, no, listen, let me tell you something. He would say to me, if you use that as an excuse, you will never have anything in life. Because every time you have something that doesn't go your way, you have given yourself a way out. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. It's what's going on in your own mind. So he didn't want me to defeat myself and give up because I always had, well, this didn't. And that's why when I'm in this male-dominated sport, it is what it is. You live, you learn, you watch, you observe, and then you answer the call. And you have to move forward without, as a woman, saying, well, I didn't get that because I'm a woman. Because how can I build the league thinking that way? And to be honest, as I'm building the league, you can't worry about what people say about you. I can't please everybody. There's no way. So if I was concerned about what people thought about me, I could never have married my husband. So it's a lot deeper. And we've been married for 43 years. We dated 3 years before we got married. So it is a thing of I married my soulmate. He's in a different package, but we're working together to impact lives. And that's all that matters, because when the day is done, I take my last breath. Whose lives have I impacted? And how did I impact their lives? Does it matter what color I am? If I show love to a community and I change somebody's life, it may if somebody's looking at me as being a mentor, but I'm not doing it just because. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. And it's a different way of thinking. And everybody may not think like I do, and that's okay. But yeah, to answer that question, I just keep it moving, because I feel like when God shows me to do something, he didn't ask me to do it because I'm Black. He said, do it. And that's the call that I answer. So he gives the vision. He will give provision. And it's not up to me to try to make everything right for everybody. It's impossible. So that's the way I move. And I don't know. I think you just have to be willing to fly alone.
I think that's so powerful. And it's so transparent. I fully appreciate my grandmother was a dark-skinned woman, but her mother was a white woman. I mean, and many Black people. And I say that to say, particularly in this political season we're in now, there's a whole lot of focus on race and ethnicity, immigration, all the things. And the reality is all of us are somehow mixed people with different ethnicities, and that you may not be able to see on the outside until you get to learn who that person is. That is the beauty of diversity, is being able to get to know people and learn where they come from and who their people are and what their traditions and backgrounds are. And I just wanted to bring that to the surface, because as our listeners listen to this audio, they won't be able to see that or know that about you. But it is a depth of experience that I know has favor and added flavor into your life. I know in knowing some of your children that it has absolutely influenced their lives. And I think it's just important to highlight, because it absolutely gives a little more breadth and depth to the conversations around diversity that we're having today. Now it's time for a break.
Get caught up on the state's top business news every business day with the Inside Indiana Business Radio On Demand podcast. Available now at InsideIndianaBusiness.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back with Evelyn Magley, Chief Executive Officer of the Basketball League, on this 39th episode of the Freedom Forum with Angela B. Freeman. So let's get back to your powerhouse position as the CEO of the Basketball League. And I certainly have admitted when I talked to Mel Raines and Allison Barber earlier this year that I have no clue what running a basketball organization entails. I do, however, as a basketball fan, as a basketball mom of a child and of teams, who I absolutely appreciate. To your point, we have taught life and life skills through the game of basketball to boys for the last 12 years. I've taken that seriously. I know all my basketball parents took that seriously. And even now, as we're in the college phase, we miss those times of really pouring into young men and seeing the young men that they've become. I want to get your perspective on what does your day-to-day job entail as the CEO of the Basketball League? How are you able to influence your league, make positive change, not just for your teams, but for the communities that they serve? And what successes have you had in your role to date that you're really proud of and that you like to tout?
Some of the things that I am most proud of, I've been inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, IWL, recognized in the top 25 women here and CEOs of businesses. And I've had these accolades that have been given, but nothing tops the impact of looking at these young men and them being on the court and living out their dreams, seeing them get opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise get, being able to offer them opportunities for financial literacy, financial education council. I'm actually on their board now, and they're implementing across the United States financial literacy. We're able to teach that through a platform. It's a program that's worth over $13,000 that because of that partnership that the league has with NFEC, we're able to offer that for individuals to become certified financial education instructors. Crystal Brooks, who's right here from Indiana, just finished becoming certified through our program, that we're able to offer that for free. And that comes from being able to have partnerships with people that have the same values that we have. It's opportunities that we're able to seed into the lives of these young men. So my successes are the lives. And although it's not a trophy, because it's just like I try to tell the teams, what are we doing? What is our success? There's only one team that's going to walk off the court with a trophy, all right, as the champion. I think let's look at this differently. Let's look at the fact that the real champion, the real trophy, so to speak, are the players in their lives. So those are my successes, is having young men. Shadell Millinghouse just called Miss Magley. I'm on a plane. I'm calling to tell you all thank you, and I'm on my way to Abu Dhabi. I'm like, excuse me, what? Miss Magley, 4 years ago, I was sitting on my couch at home, watching television, playing video games, and I'm on my way to another country. I've never been out of the country other than Canada. And now he's going to another land where he's going to learn more about who he is, about what it means to be an American, because he's going to be in another culture, another country. And that game of basketball is opening doors that his mind, when he goes to the other country, it's going to be like, it can never be the same because of his experience. And so to answer your question on successes, that's my success, is their success. And again, it goes back to, it's not about me. It's about me using a platform, not to just win another award, but if the award gets me in front of more people to open more doors for my players, I'm all about it. But it's not about me, because it's all about the success of the individuals, statisticians that are now statisticians with the SEC that were here local or somewhere else, and now they're able to be at another level. For me, that is a success, not just winning an award.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. I tell my mentees all the time, if you really believe the awards, if you believe that, oh, I'm really all that because I have an award, then you're not getting the point. The awards are just a mechanism, a marketing tool to allow you to be seen as an expert, as to be seen as exceptional in whatever your field or your craft is. And if you take any more from it than that, I always say, don't take the bait, right?
Well, be careful, because, when they build you up.
Hero to a zero.
To a zero.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important. You have to know who you are.
That's right.
And you have to know whose you are, because all that glitters is not gold.
You mentioned that you've had some successes in, some of your players going to work for the Pacers or the stats people or the dancers or whoever. Do you see a future potential collaboration between the basketball league and the Pacers organization in some greater format than what's currently happening?
Well, I would say yes. And that collaboration is already happening. Our team in Medora, they have the Indiana Pacers cheerleaders come in and cheer at their games. Boomer.
Oh, yeah.
He comes to the games. They're kind of co-branding in a way that says, hey, we're here too. And if that means that more people will start to go to an Indiana Pacers game, more power to them. It opens the door. It's opportunities for everyone. We're not in opposition to, nor are we a competitor with the NBA. We see ourselves as being more of a feeder, that we are working on those life skills. We are educating the young men. We are seeing them as whole individuals. For example, and I know this may not be a question, but we're having with Basketball Super League, which is the new league we're going into our second year now, we're having a combine that's going to be in Windsor, Ontario. And we'll have anywhere from 100 to 150 young men that will come and try out so that they can play in Basketball Super League. We have at that combine on Friday evening, as we do with the combine that we have here in Indy for the Basketball League, the young men will come to something called the interview. The interview is, for me, an educational experience because everything has to be about uplifting. It's not just about running up and down the court and slamming the ball, but this interview is an opportunity for the young men to come in and to interview the teams and the teams to interview the young men. So what does that mean? That means I'm going to put them in an atmosphere that is business casual, that I am going to pre-educate them. All of them have been sent out information on what is an interview. How do you interview? How do you dress? What questions do you ask? What questions do you answer? What's the best answer to this question? I have about 8 different videos that I have sent out along with showing them exactly what and how to dress to educate them because you know what? You're not always going to be on a basketball court. So how are you going to be prepared for the G League if you don't understand? You don't come into an interview with your pants hanging down halfway down your legs. That may work for meeting somebody at the gym, but when you're in an interview and understanding that this is an opportunity to educate so that now we want to take them to another level to have them prepared so that when they go to that next level, they walk through a door and they feel confident. And when they go to this interview, everyone is being interviewed. We have local media will come out that will be interviewing the team market owners. And by the way, we have team market owners, not team owners, because this isn't slavery. They do not own the players. They own a market. So we call them TMOs. That's another paradigm shift and a different way of thinking. So at this interview, they're interviewing the team market owners. Our executives will be there, our commissioner, and it will be at a meet and greet. And then the meet and greet breaks into an interview session where they go one-on-one and they interview. That's a part of the process of being in the basketball league or basketball super league. I'm sorry.
No.
I hope that answered some of the questions.
That's excellent information. I mean, you're basically preparing them for life with or without basketball. And there is going to come a life where they're not running up and down the court. At least at some point, just the physical nature of it becomes a barrier, and they need to be able to transition into business. And
also understanding that each team are also educating our players, are these young men, to after a game is over, you don't go into the locker room, put your beats on and walk out, listening to music with your bag over your shoulder. When the game is over, you interact with the fans. You go out and you speak to people. You develop relationships because those relationships are going to open more doors of opportunity. You're sitting here, you've got investors, you've got sponsors, you've got corporations that are there that are coming and bringing their families out. Don't you want to connect and let them know who you are. There's an opportunity that's standing there. And all of our players, like I said, they're not just basketball players. A lot of them have been to college and have education. Don't you want to know who owns that dealership down there? Don't you know who the corporate CEO or the executive is over here at Eli Lilly? Do you want to know who the people are that are bringing their games out and meet them and have conversation? This is a part of educating, because sometimes in their minds, they just want to be seen. What is the big draw? They want to be seen. They want to be acknowledged. If you want to use basketball to be seen, let me show you how to really be seen. It's not just on the court, because I tell you, you can do a 360 and jump like a kangaroo. But if your social media is messed up, if you don't understand business, then how are you marketing? And who are you marketing yourself to? You got that on your footage, and you think the G League wants to pick you up? You're delusional. Somebody has to tell you that, and I'm just the person. And we want to educate them so that they understand it's a business. It's just not that you can score so many points. There's a lot of people that are scoring points, but they're not being picked up by the G League or the NBA. I wonder why. In all transparency, let's look. Oh, I'm so sorry that you have all that cursing and you've got weed on your feed. And everybody doesn't have that. I'm just giving an example right now. And you're looking at me seriously saying you want to go to the G League. Honey, they have looked at you all the way back to junior high. What are you doing? What are you trying to accomplish? Let me explain. This is a business and how it works. Because they don't have time to tell you. You got to be cleaned and filleted and ready to go. And that is one of the things that we work on, is getting them to understand who they are, the power that they have, and then being able to take that and translate it so that now someone looks at you and you are ready as a pro.
And that is so necessary.
It is very necessary. And it's hard, Angela. Sometimes it's difficult because, kill the messenger. Some people don't want to hear what they need to hear. But then there are those that just don't know what they don't know. And they're like, Miss Magley, are you kidding me? I'm like, yes, I'm telling you. Okay, you want to go to the G League, but you're running up and down the court. You think it's cool because you don't tuck your shirt in? Do you realize that I've been told that one of the first ways that you get crossed off of a list is the fact that you don't tuck your shirt in? And the reason why you're scratched off the list is they think you have a mental issue going on there. Well, why? Why would that be? Because one of the fundamental rules of playing basketball is to tuck your shirt in. If you don't want to do the fundamentals, they know they're not going to get you to be able to run a play or anything else, because fundamentally, you'd rather be cool and run up and down the court with your shirt untucked, talking about you're going to be a pro, than to understand this is a business. So let's make certain that your shirts are tucked in.
The basics.
The basics. It's the details. How do you stick out from everybody else?
So, Miss Magley, I want to ask, because I know enough about raising boys and teaching boys. That's not easy. And to your point, there are plenty of people, and it's not just boys. I mean, it's girls, it's mentoring, it's teaching and mentoring those who don't know. And you said some just don't know what they don't know, and they're open and willing to accept that they don't know, and they're willing to, but there's plenty of people who think they know way more than they actually know and are not always willing or open to what I get from you. And I know I'm absolutely a person of tough love. Sometimes it's just some tough love. You got to be tough. You got to tell them what they don't want to hear, because if you don't tell them, who's going to take the time to tell them?
Exactly. And that's what we do in the basketball league. And part of that is the fact that typically, Angela, when I do get to speak, especially like at a combine, I only have 10 minutes. So I got to hit it. I got to say what I mean. I have to listen, but I have to say what I say and mean what I say. And hopefully the ears that it falls on, it says, he who has ears, let him hear. Because everyone's not willing to hear. But those that are willing to hear, I am here, our coaches, our commissioners. We're here to help you get where you want to go. We are that league that does care about giving you the information, because everybody is not going to give you the information, because when they get you, you're supposed to be ready. So, for example, your son, I would have him talk to somebody that's in the league that's been there, because as a mom, your mom. What are you talking about? I hear
Absolutely.
I hear this. Ah, there she goes again. Okay, mom. Okay. I have 2 sons too. Okay, mom. But it is about getting them in front of individuals that they think have what they need. Sometimes, even then, they will not listen, but more than often, they will listen. And that's why it's important that we educate our players, these young men, because that is what they do for a community with young people that are looking to them as being, they're like a star. They don't care that if you play in the NBA or not, and he's on the court and everybody's cheering. Now you can take your life and you can tell that young man or that young lady, you know what? I know what it felt like to be bullied. I was bullied. And this is what I did. So just like I use the opportunity to seed into your son's life and have those conversations where maybe he'll listen. Maybe he's talking to one of our players. Lindy Waters is one of our players. He's playing with Golden State Warriors right now. He's making an impact on the indigenous people. All right. This is Indigenous People Day. And he is making an impact because guess what he's doing with his life? He's going back. He's talking to those young people and showing them, this is what I did. This is how I did this. And that is what we're able to do with this basketball league as the CEO, as our executives, as our coaches, as our team market owners. That's what we want to do, is do exactly what you're talking about, is be able to get in front of the young people or even older people and talk to them and make an impact where maybe mom can't get through. Our players have to understand the power that they carry within who they are. So that's what I think is most important. But that is what I believe impacts the most lives.
So let me ask you this, Miss Evelyn. As Indiana continues to get the opportunity to host more and more sports events, such as the WNBA All-Stars are coming here next year, what's on the horizon for the growth and expansion of the basketball league? And in particular, is there a possibility for an Indianapolis team? And even more so, has there been any thought given to particularly or potentially expanding to a women's basketball league?
Well, I would say as far as locally having an Indianapolis team, I would say you have to have the right investors. You have to have the people that want to invest in having a team here that is locally. But I would say our teams are most effective in small communities or communities that are and need a platform of this sort that they don't have. I mean, we're located in over 38 different markets across North America, and now 9 if you include the different provinces, et cetera, that are up in Canada. But having a team here locally is something that could happen, but I would say it will probably be more teams that are on the outside. Because, like I said, we're not really something that is competitive with the NBA. We're really a feeder. And Medora, Kokomo, Lebanon, those are communities that are outside of the city. And so those communities are looking for opportunities that they can support. But I would say there's a possibility that that would happen, but I think it'd be more teams that are located outside of that region. As far as the WNBA, they really don't have a feeder league. They don't have a G League that's G League WNBA. They have WNBA. I believe that that's something that would give more opportunities. And I would say that that could be a part of the vision for the future. But as far as when that could take place, I don't have an answer. But that is something that we definitely have thought about and are looking at, because it would be a great opportunity for the young ladies that play to be able to have a platform that feeds them into WNBA. Because just think about this. When they finish playing, unless they go to Europe, where are they going to play and be able to get footage and stats and be able to play at a high level? So that's something that's definitely, I would say, in the books, but a timeline on it I don't have. We're definitely open to it.
Sure. That's awesome. So I want to finish with this question that I ask all of my guests, and it's really from your vantage point as the only diverse woman CEO of a male sports organization. What do you believe have been some of the greatest advances that Indiana companies have made with regard to diversity and equity and inclusion in their corporate workspaces? And what are 2 or 3 tips or tools that you think would be helpful for ongoing Indiana corporate leaders who are serious about continuing to progress DE&I and making their workspaces and leadership ranks more diverse, equitable, and inclusive of all people in Indiana?
I believe the best is yet to come. I believe that Indiana is growing. I believe it wanting to be a hub for IT is going to bring in even a younger generation that will transport themselves and their families into this community, which will bring in even more diversity. But I think as far as building, the best is yet to come. I know they have InnoPower here that has made a wonderful impact on the African American community, and as it even relates to Africa. That is something that is huge. But I know that one of the things that are organizations that is very diversified across the board, that is based in Indy, is the Basketball League. And by having this here, our footprint is now larger than the NBA. We have the most diversified staff, executives of any, I would say, NBA, NFL, of any pro sports organization in America. We have team market owners that are women, men, different ethnicities across the board. We are diversifying, and we want our league, our upper management, to look like our players. And we are doing that successfully. I mean, everybody keeps saying NBA. If you look at across the board, how much percentage would you say are people of color that are players? Probably 75, 80% or more. Then when you go to the coaches, this is 2023 was the first year that they had more African American coaches. I think they had 15 and 14, and they have one Asian for a coach. But then you go up to upper management. Then when you go up to team ownership, as they call it, you had one. Now, in order to have one of those teams, $3.6 billion in assets? The opportunity for a diversification of what they would call team ownership is somewhat limiting. It's limited in some ways. However, with the Basketball League and Basketball Super League, we have a low barrier to entry. We have a product that is easily accessible to communities. That's a community asset that is very diversified in the team market ownership, that is growing and has value. And so I would say that one of the most powerful and most diversified organizations that you have nationwide and now even internationally that is growing, that's young and is growing, I will add that in, is the Basketball League. And so with that, we look forward to the demographics that we have, the diversity that we have, that we're impacting lives and making an impact across the nation and now into Canada. and where else, that we'll go into in the future. So yes, that's something that we have. That's something that we're building on. And we're hoping that Indy will continue to be that place that allows a small business to be able to grow. And that's another thing. Indiana is amazing for small businesses. They work with you. So because of that, they're able to have more diversification. Heck, I'm here too. So it's like, this is a state that I believe is really working towards opening that door. And I believe that we're all going to be able to walk right through it as we work together with SCORE and different things that they have here that are available in this beautiful state.
Well, Miss Evelyn, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the Freedom Forum. Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom, your insights, your vulnerabilities, and your transparencies with us and our listeners today. Thank you so much, Miss Evelyn.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you again to Evelyn Magley, and thanks to you for joining us on this 39th episode of IBJ's The Freedom Forum with Angela B. Freeman. Please come back next month for another conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Central Indiana business community.